Everyone, welcome to the NDIS Marketing Podcast, the podcast where you get all your information about how to market your NDIS business to your NDIS participants. And today we've got an episode on social media and SEO with Bonnie. And Bonnie's from Media Sociale and has been there for 9 years. Welcome, Bonnie.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me in your podcast today, Greg. It's really exciting to be here.
It's great to have you on. So just give the listeners just a little bit more of a background on where you come from. What gives you the authority to sort of speak on all things SEO and social media?
So I am originally from Adelaide, where I did a bachelor degree in marketing and management. So I've got the university credentials behind me. And then ever since then, I have worked at Media Sociale. So I've been here for quite some time now. We've serviced clients around the world. So we've got clients in the UK, Ireland, the US, Australia, so anywhere that's English speaking. Obviously can't speak another language, so anywhere English speaking I've kind of worked and understand all the different markets and the intricacies of them.
Great. Well, let's kick it off with SEO. Now, a lot of the people in the NDIS space are not tech savvy, don't know online marketing, don't really want to know. It's more of a they have to know to be able to survive. Can you sort of explain SEO? What is it?
So I think there's always a lot of questions around SEO, and I think traditionally it's been packaged up as some magical, mystical thing that people sell you, and you don't really know what you're getting, you don't really know what it is. And I think it's really important to understand, even if you like whether you're going to start trying to do some stuff in-house or do it through an agency, you really need to know what you're getting, and you really need to understand to a level what you need to do. So I'll talk you through. Obviously, SEO is search engine optimization. So we're looking at, in Australia, mostly it's Google, and that's what we're focusing on today. So we're looking at how we can get ranked higher on Google. So when you go onto Google and search for a term, you want to be on that page 1. You don't want to have someone clicking through to page 3 because they most likely will not click through to page 3. It's a bit of art, bit of science. There's a couple of different elements to it. So do you want me to take you through kind of the main things that bake it all together?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Beautiful. So first of all, I'll quickly touch on why it's important. So 1, you're going to be visible. 2, credibility, which in your industry, there is nothing more important. So it's really important that you are ranking alongside other people that people already deem credible. Particularly if you're a smaller or newer player, you want to be sitting alongside other people that already have that credibility within the market. And it's organic. So it's not going to work overnight. If someone tries to get you on for an SEO plan, or if you're deciding to do SEO and you only have 1 month worth to do, don't do it. You may as well get your money lighted on fire and chuck it on the floor. It's waste of money. Don't do it. You need at least 3, maybe even 6 months to really start seeing results. Saying that, if you turn it off, so if you stop doing it, if you're busy for a month or 2, you will still see results for a few months afterwards. And doing the setup at the start will just give you a lot more flow. So there is the benefit, but obviously you have to wait a little while to actually get anything in the beginning. So make sure you are prepared to work for a few months on it, and don't try and expect it to work in 1 month or overnight. So SEO is broken into 2 parts. You've got your on page. This is all about looking at the actual website pages and making sure they have the right content, the right keywords, they're structured nicely. So all the stuff that actually happens on the website page. This is the stuff where if you're going to do it in-house, I think this is a really good way to start. You can generate content, obviously. You can create amazing, valuable things for your audience, probably better than some of the SEO providers, because they're not you. As much as you can get things outsourced at some point, no one can be you. So if you can create really amazing content for your target audience, making sure you've got them in mind the whole time, and then just do a little bit of keyword tweaking, quick keyword research, that's a really good, effective way to get some positive SEO working on your website without having to pay anyone to do it. So if you are a smaller provider and that's what you're wanting to do, highly recommend get into a bit of a frequent blog pattern, or go back and look at all of the website pages that you have and just give them a little tweak, update the content, and just make sure that you've got the keywords that you want to be found for, and it's really valuable and usable for your audience. And while we're on that, seeing as we are talking about NDIS, all websites should do this, but I think particularly everyone listening to this podcast, accessibility. Google does give some thought to this when they're giving you your ranking. So there's hundreds of different things that get brought into the equation to decide how you end up ranking on Google. Accessibility is really important. And then finally, it's becoming something that is being pushed on mainstream websites, which I think is really important. But on your websites particularly, make sure you've thought about accessibility. Now, there are little free plugins if you are working off a smaller platform. I know on WordPress there are hundreds. Other platforms, I'm sure they've got them as well. I usually work with WordPress websites. But make sure you've installed something, and it will be things like making the text bigger or smaller, making sure we've got higher contrast, making sure it's friendly for people who are dyslexic so they can follow along. Just all those little things to make sure people can actually use the website effectively. Also, we've got alt text on images. So all of that stuff is part of on-page. It's super important, and I'd say particularly in this area, make sure we have nailed that.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then we've got the other more technical side, which is off-page. Now, Google does seem to be moving to apply a little bit more importance to the off-page, and I think this is because, obviously, the rise of AI content. Like, I could sit here today and I could build out an AI persona, so create a little AI bot that pretty much acts as if it's a copywriter working in my business. I could give it the topics, I could set up Zapier, and I could have it publish articles without me ever touching it again every day or every week. So I think because of that, Google is placing a little bit more importance on the technical side of things and getting backlinks. So backlinks is probably the biggest part of off-page that we're going to talk about today. So this is where you go and find another website that has a high domain authority. So Google has ranked it as credible, fantastic website, and getting them to link back to your website. So you might create a piece of content and someone else might have referenced that, and you would reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to be listed on your website. I think I could fit really nicely in here. You can also pay for this. You can pay some websites. They've built up their domain authority really, really high, and then you can pay to be listed on there. So that's another option. But that's something I think is going to become more and more important. It's annoying because it's the harder part of SEO, but I guess Google's trying to weed out all of this AI content, which is appearing because so many people are setting up just bots essentially to put so much up.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned there about Google rankings, and there's a lot of talk around get me to number one. How do you get me to number one? And I get so many providers. How do I get to number one on Google? What's your answer to that?
Well, first of all, I think the question needs to be a little bit more in depth. What do you want to be number one for? So when we will get someone, we'll do a proposal for them. We'll talk to them about their business. We'll go through and have a look at which keywords we think they'd want to be ranked for. And then we'll pop them into a tool. We use SEMrush usually, and pop all the keywords in. And then it will give you a score saying how competitive that keyword is. Obviously, if I'm trying to bid against Coca-Cola, I would tell a client, I can't get you to number one. Coca-Cola will win. They have more money than us. They have more time. They're going to win. If there's you would look at the keywords and you'll pick some that you think, one, are attainable within the time frame budget you've got, and two, are super relevant, of course. So you can get people to number one, but you really need to think about, first of all, number one of what? If it's your brand name, sure. If it's some really highly competitive keyword and you've only got a small budget, or you might not be able to put out the content, or your website's possibly not built with SEO in mind, it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So I think it's really important when someone does ask that question to really have a think about for what, like really flesh out that question and understand exactly what we're trying to achieve. And how to get there, it is a combination of doing all the on-page stuff, making sure your website's structured really nicely, all the back-end stuff. We've got a nice, fast website. It's accessible. We've got backlinks. We don't have any toxic backlinks. That's actually something I should have touched on before. In March, I believe, Google made some changes to how backlinks are categorized, and everyone was flipping out because all of a sudden everyone had all these scores saying you've got 90% toxic backlinks or 50% toxic backlinks, and there were backlinks that people had been paying for people to generate for them for years, and overnight their score just went blip. So that's really, really crucial, making sure when you do get backlinks, you do not want any that have a low score, because you will get flagged as untrustworthy, deceptive, spammy. So that's really, really important as well. While I am on that, make sure that you are checking your backlinks and ensuring that they are quality. Low quality backlinks hurt you. They do not help. They really hurt the website.
I'm sitting here laughing because that happened to me this morning. I got my SEMrush report this morning, and it was said there was like, I forget, there was like 20 toxic backlinks,
I've
and I
seen,
had to go through and delete them all.
I saw in March, we had some clients that they'd been with someone else, or some people jumped over to us during that process. And we're looking at thousands, and we're trying to
Yeah.
delete them, and we're getting more that are coming online faster than we're deleting them. And I was like, I'm trying to get this percentage down, but I'm fighting a little bit of a losing battle. We'll get there eventually, but right now it's taken some time.
Could that be why, say, one day on my SEMrush report, I'm in the top 50, and then 24 hours later, I'm in the top 200?
Yes, that could definitely be part of it, a big part of
Right.
it.
Great.
But that means if you're only getting 20 for that, I think that's a really good opportunity where you could go out and have a look at maybe trying to build up 5 backlinks per month. And then if you're almost in that 50, if you're in the 50 half the time, that'll get you well up in there, and then you'll be sitting pretty.
Right. So how does this all benefit me? How does SEO and what we've discussed so far, how does it benefit me and my business as an NDIS provider?
Yeah, so there are 2 types of marketing. There's intercept, where you try and catch someone when they're doing something else and just get in their way, like social media ads or social media. And then there's intercept. I've gotten that jumbled up in my head. Intercept is where you find someone when they're actually trying to buy or trying to do something. So on Google, someone comes in and they're like, I would like to purchase XYZ, or I'd like to find someone to help me with this. So you are intercepting them while they're in that buying mode. So they're ready to buy something. Interrupt is social media ads, social media, where you're just interrupting them during their day. They might not be thinking about you at all, not be any kind of buying situation, but you're just trying to get in their way and get them to remember you and possibly get them to click through. So I think particularly for service-based businesses, intercept marketing is really important. And I know everyone always thinks that Facebook ads are the hot new thing and we should get over there. And I often have clients come to us and they're like, Facebook ads, this is exactly what I need. And you look at it and you're like, no, this is a terrible idea. Let's not do that. Sure, like it's good for branding, and if you've got enough budget, absolutely, like layer it all together, build a beautiful funnel and get people moving through that process. That's fantastic. However, if we are, like most people I work with are small to medium-sized businesses, you don't have unlimited budget. So it's really important that you first of all focus on the thing that's going to get you ROI nice and quickly. So SEO will increase the chance of you being the answer to someone's question when they're looking for you. So if you do it right, you're only ranking for things that you actually are relevant to. So you're making sure that all of your keywords you've selected, you are definitely the answer to that question for the person looking for it. So if someone types something in and they find you, you really want them to think that you are the answer. If you're ranking for the wrong things, obviously that's not going to work. So if you can do that effectively, you'll get more traffic to your website and you'll get people who are actually looking to buy or work with you.
Great. Now, you've talked a lot through the conversation so far. You mentioned keywords. Can you sort of elaborate on that and explain that sort of in layman terms for the listeners as to what you mean by keywords?
So keywords are the thing that someone types into Google, the Google search bar, or talks to their Google Home, whatever it is that they say, they're the keywords. So when you're thinking about it, you have to reverse engineer everything. So you have to say, what question will people ask that I'm the answer to, or that our service is the answer to? So you really got to flip it around and have a think about your users. With anything in marketing, obviously, you need to sit there and just pretend that you are your customer, and they'll change. So there's also quite a bit of importance when you're doing keywords to think from different audiences. And I think in your space, this is probably important because you'll have support coordinators and then you'll have end users. So I think it's really important that you split that down the middle and pretend you're a support coordinator, and then pretend you're actually the user of the service, because I think they're very different and you're going to be asking different things, and some people are going to buy directly from you, some people are going to go through a coordinator. So I think that's really crucial to think about that in both ways. So you are considering each side of things and you're not missing out on any of that traffic.
Right.
And when you're choosing keywords, again, I think I've semi-touched on this before. What you want to do is you want to come up with your list. So think about best case, these are the things that I'd love to rank for. Obviously, you want to rank for your brand name, so make sure that's in there. And then think about all of your services. And then you really want to think about localizing them if you're a service-based business. So you might, I'm in Melbourne, so I would go SEO Melbourne. And then I might pick a few suburbs that I specialize in. So I can add all those together and then come up higher, because obviously there's going to be less competition. If I just go SEO for the whole world, I don't stand a chance, because there are people with so much more money, so much more time, that have spent 20 years already dominating that keyword. And unless I put every single ounce of my body and time into that, it's not going to happen. So I would just go, no, I don't want that. And then I'd think about localizing it. And I'm not competing against as many people as soon as I do that. I can compete within my localized area. So I've got a much better chance and I can get there a lot more quickly. So keywords, you want to do your brand, your services. You might also want to think about just some value-based things, because you're not paying for this traffic. So if you're in there doing this, you might think about some resources or tools or things like that that people are searching for a lot. So you can plug these keywords in and see which one's getting the most traffic, and then start just giving free help to your clients as well, because that's going to get them interested in the page. And then once they're on there, they might go, okay, this person's really helped me with X, Y, and Z. Now I need this service. I'm going to be interested in purchasing from them.
Right. Now, why would I want to invest in SEO then? Just to wrap that whole SEO topic up, why would I want to invest in it?
So SEO, you're getting people when they're actually looking for you, and it's a long-term investment. Honestly, I think if people have budget, I would say everyone should have some form of SEO, whether it's a minor version that you're doing in-house, where you're putting out some blog content, you're making sure your website's structured properly. Maybe you're not doing backlink. Maybe that's a bit hard to do within the company. That's fine. But you need to be doing some of these things, and you might not even call it SEO within the company, but these are basic things that I think everyone really does need to do. Your website is like your shop. It's kind of like having a shop and not finishing up the fit out and never vacuuming the floors. You wouldn't do that. So you want to make sure you're doing these things for your website. So it's relevant, it's current, it's got things going on, and Google preferences. If you don't update your website and you build it one day and then never ever update or touch anything, your rankings will start to go down. Google will start penalizing you and say, oh, maybe their content's out of date. They're not interested in the website anymore. Maybe it's not relevant and it's not going to help our users.
Is there something else I can help with?
I'm so sorry. My Siri is trying to get in on the conversation. Oh, dear.
Siri want to join the interview, does she?
Yes, she does, apparently. Opinions about SEO, maybe.
So you mentioned there a lot, you touched on Facebook ads and how they're often a waste of time. So how does sort of our social media ads, Google ads, are they a waste of time and money?
No, they're not a waste of time and money. So I imagine most of your client base, after having a chat with you earlier, I can see that they're fitting into that small and medium-sized business. There's people that haven't really dipped their toes into marketing too much previously. So
the majority of them would be mum and dad, home-based, or just slightly above that, just got their first office with 2 or 3 staff.
Beautiful. So you've obviously got limited resources, limited time, limited money, limited people within the business. So you don't want to be jumping straight into something that is going to be focusing on just your branding. Branding is so important, obviously. You want to get your brand out there. You want to build up brand awareness. But a lot of that you can do by just being in the market, by talking to people, by getting referrals. So that's something you can do organically without having to touch digital marketing quite well. Obviously, you've
just by being you.
Yeah, so that's something like
just by doing what you do and being you.
And you're probably going to do a better job at doing it naturally, because you know what you're doing. Like, you're a specialist at what you do, and you being out there with people is the best way to sell your product. So if you are going to jump into digital marketing, I think the first step I would go with is either SEO or Google Ads, because you are intercepting people when they're actually ready to buy. Social media ads is a bit more of a long game. So for our medium-sized business, I often build out a bit of a funnel. So we'll have SEO running for most of our clients, because I think it's really important to make sure the destination for your ads is beautiful, perfect, Google's happy with it, we're all good. I will then often get Google ads going for like a front end. So when people first search for you and the first time they find you, they've come off a Google search, and we've been ranking in those top 3 because we've paid for that space. So you can pay based on your keywords. Your SEO still comes into it. So if you have an awful website, or it's just, if you've got heaps of toxic backlinks, Google on the ad side will still penalize you. So if your website is not up to scratch, do not touch Google ads. Make sure this is all worked out before you go and do that, because you will be throwing away a lot of money. It's not worth it. But once you've got this set up beautifully, you've got it optimized, you've got the right keywords on there, so it's actually relevant for the keywords that you're bidding for, because you don't want to pay for a keyword and then someone get there and it's completely irrelevant. Obviously, Google doesn't want that. Google wants its users to be happy. So if you're doing something that's not for the user, Google will penalize you. It's kind of the trick. And for little businesses, this is probably really important. Everyone's going to hear like, oh, this cool way to hack Google, or I've hacked Facebook, or I've got this new trick to sneak around. Don't do any of them. They might work for a month, and then Facebook and Google are smarter than all of us, unfortunately. They will plug that hole pretty damn quickly. So if you hear of some kind of trick or hack, unless it serves the users, don't do it. Don't even think about doing it.
Yeah. And I hear that Google changes their algorithm like every 24 hours or something like that.
Yeah, but if you are trying to help people and assist people and provide value, you will never get penalized by the algorithm. If you're trying to do like really clean ways of helping and adding value, that's what they want, because like that, their aim of their game is to keep you on their platforms. If you start giving people a bad experience, everyone's going to leave their platform. So they don't want that. So no matter what they do, no matter what they change, they want people on their platform. So if you're looking after the user base and you're providing value, you'll never get penalized. It's just with those little hacks that people all of a sudden come out and tell you. And I think that I often see them in small business groups. They'll just come up and you're like, oh no, don't, please.
It's
disaster.
It's more on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Rather than a general blanket statement that people tend to throw around.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But sorry.
So
back to my why Meta or Google ads are important and how to use them within a small business. So in a slightly bigger business, you'll start layering things. So you'll use SEO to make sure your website is performing, working really nicely. Then you'll use Google ads to kick your keywords up a notch. So you'll be able to actually pay for the traffic and get up to number 1 a little bit quicker and more regularly, because you will move up and down, obviously. And then what I'll often do for businesses is I might layer on some retargeting. So when someone visits your website from your Google ad, they're here, they come over to the website, and then we kind of pixel them. So we put them on a little list so that we can market to again later. We don't actually have their name, their email address or anything. We just have them on a little list so we can serve them more ads. So then I'll use that and I will retarget them on Meta. So then when they're scrolling around Facebook or Instagram, we can pop up with a bit of a video ad or something that really gets the emotional side of things across and really converts these people into people that love and care about your brand or will buy from you, possibly.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
you sort of started to touch. Sorry?
That's how they kind of all work together. So I think in a smaller business jumping straight onto Meta and just doing that, I don't always think that's a great idea unless they've got a direct to lead or something offer.
It's not a this or that. It's a blended approach of seeing how it all works together. Now, you touched on there about ads and Meta and things like that. So what makes a good ad?
So your offer. So a lot of the time people will get so caught up in the little nitty gritty of like, press this button, do this, make sure it's on this placement, make sure it's this size, make sure the video has this, this, and this. And these things are all obviously very important. But your offer. What's your offer? What are you offering people and why should they care? And I think someone said this to me when I was quite young in my marketing career. And they said, why should anyone give you the 10 seconds of their life? Like, what value are you going to give back to them? because don't think that you're helping them. They're helping you. So why should they give you their attention? So I think if you really think about it and saying, what are they going to get out of this interaction? Whether it is that you're giving away something for free, whether it's you're entertaining them, whether it's you're making them feel something, whether it's you're empowering them, you want to make sure that you're giving them something back within your post or ad. And then really thinking about what is the offer and do people want it? Because as business owners, we are a little bit insular sometimes. We get into our head and we think about everything from within the business, and we don't always make the best tests for our offers. So I think it's really important, get your offer and maybe ask some other people that aren't you. So someone that doesn't obsess over the business, because you're going to get a much better perspective by asking someone else outside. But yeah, if the offer is perfect, you will never win at ads.
Every conversation I have with an NDIS provider about marketing, I say to them, so where have you been? Where are you now? And where are you trying to get to? And every single conversation I have, it's, oh, we've done this. We're here. Where you're trying to, we.
No,
And I say, no, it's not about you. It's about the person you're trying to serve.
exactly. And just flipping that's so important. And I get that it's hard. I think it's human nature that this is what we can touch and feel and see. That's us.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's not us. So there's kind of some variables. So maybe it's a little bit scary for us all to think about all the time. But it's so important that you are just thinking about your target audience. And even I've recommended this for people creating social media campaigns, and I put a little cheat sheet together sometimes for our clients. If they're writing their own copy, I will say literally like get a slide or a piece of paper, write down who your client is, give them a name, give them a little face, write all the things that they like. So I usually break it down into pain points and then desire. So what are the things that they hate and they want to run away from? They want that to get in the bin. And then what are the things that they really like and they really want? And just, it doesn't have to be that you can fulfill all of those things. This is just thinking about it from the user. Don't worry about you at this point. Write down all the things that they would love to see happen, whether it's you related or not, just all the things they would love and they want. And then write down all the things that they absolutely don't want and have really upset and frustrated them. And then when you're writing copy or you're writing offers or you're coming up with ad creatives, whatever you're doing, literally sit with it in front of you. So every time you look up, you're looking at the person that you are trying to serve. I think that's a really powerful way of just
that's really great advice, because I sit there and I go, so I actually have to create an avatar for most of my clients, because first question I ask them is, so who's your target audience? And they've go, what's the target audience?
Yeah, and it's just everything is so hard. You have to do so much trial and error if you don't know who you're talking to, and you end up wasting a lot of time, money, effort. It's so much harder. But yeah, I would totally, if you're making those for your clients, hammer them, say, print this out and stick it on top of your computer screen when you're doing this, to make sure you don't go off task, because it's so easy to fall back into, oh, what about this and what about this, and go down that little rabbit hole. Whereas if they're staring back into your face, you're kind of a bit better at staying on track, I think.
Yeah. So getting back to the whole social media aspect, as a NDIS provider, there's so many channels out there. There's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's LinkedIn, there's Twitter, or X as it's now called. There's Snapchat, there's this, there's that. How do I know what platforms I should be focusing on?
So again, this will link straight back into the who is your target audience. So in your space, I think you'd have maybe two possibly, where you might be wanting to go LinkedIn for B2B, so targeting support coordinators and making sure that you're making contact with them, you know them, they know you, and you are on the shopping list with them. And then end users, you'd really want to think about, probably for ease of use and for a lower budget option, I think using Meta and Facebook together, because you can post once, it goes to both organically. I think that is a really good way of doing things. If you've got fantastic video content, if you've got the in-house capabilities to make really good content on video, I would go TikTok as well, but only if that's something that can fit within your day-to-day and that's something that can fit within your budget. If you're not going to make amazing content, that's amazing video content, don't try and go use Twitter. TikTok, I've seen so many people go over there and start putting like sliders or something together because they just don't have the ability to make video in-house. And so instead of just going, no, that's not for me, I'm going to focus over here instead, they try and squish what they have into it. It's just, no, don't do that. But mostly I recommend for smaller business owners to go with the Facebook and Instagram combination.
Yeah. And that whole video thing is something that we'll explore and expand on next week in next week's episode, where we'll look at the whole equipments, how to put together a good quality video for this type of thing.
And if you can,
Now you mentioned there on Meta and Facebook. I thought Meta was the parent company of Facebook.
Sorry, Meta is Facebook and Instagram. That's what I meant to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted to clarify for the listeners in case they thought Meta was another social media channel out there.
No, that was my mistake.
So
yeah, Instagram and Facebook. Sorry.
My understanding is that Facebook bought Instagram and created Meta as the parent company for the two social media platforms.
Yes. And so now, because they're both together, you can use Meta Business Planner, I believe it's called. So there's one place where you can schedule all of your posts to go out at the same time to both platforms. And I'm not probably in my job, I hear about this all the time, but posting things organically within the platform means you get more reach. So you get rewarded for posting within the platform. So you're better off not using something like Buffer or Hootsuite to send it everywhere. You're better off having some focus around 1 to 2 platforms where you can make sure you're creating content for those platforms, first of all, making sure it's sized right, making sure you've thought about the platform and the audience on there, and then also posting within the platform. So going to the Meta Business Planner, setting up all the posts, and then having them go out across both channels. And I do recommend while we're on social media, I have so many business owners, and they come and we make a nice plan, we get our content pillars worked out, we decide what we're going to be doing and what we're going to be talking about, and then they think that they can do it just themselves each day. They don't have a think about scheduling or anything, and we end up just seeing lots of pictures of people's dogs on their way to work or something because you don't have any time to come up with anything that really is relatable. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. Please keep sharing everyone's dogs on Instagram stories and Facebook stories. People like it. It's fine. But you want to make sure you've got a bit of a cohesive strategy going out regularly. You want to be on the platform probably 2 to 3 times a week minimum. And if you've got the capability, then I'd be posting daily if possible. But 2 to 3 times a week works well for most businesses. And please sit down once a month, come up with the content, think about your content pillars. So you might say, okay, I have 4 things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about maybe customer stories. I want to talk about my service once a week or once every 2 weeks. I want to talk about some industry news, and I might want to talk about my values and core competencies. So maybe they're the 4 content pillars or content themes. And then you can sit down and write a whole month's worth of content about all these things. And it's so much easier doing it all at the same time. So you go customer stories. All right, I'm going to tell 4 customer stories this month. I'm going to do 1 a week. So you can write out these nice customer stories. Obviously, some of them might need to be hypothetical depending on what you're talking about. So you can write them all down and then decide what kind of imagery you're going to use. Off it goes. And then you sit down and move on with the other ones. Once you've finished writing it all and you've got your images ready, go in and schedule it. You are all small business owners. You're so busy. Our days get taken up with the thing that we actually started our businesses for. Like, you want to go down and actually start working with your clients and actually making things better for their lives. You don't really care at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday whether a social media post goes out or not, because it's not your core business. That's not what you love, and that's not why you're here. So allocate a couple of hours a month, get it in, schedule it, and then let your brain go and focus on the things that really matter to you.
That's absolutely fantastic. That's something I struggle with. I know it was something that I was going to allude to, just wrapping up, because as I said, it's something that I struggle with is creating a content calendar, because I start to get into the mindset of, well, what I put in my content calendar today is relevant to me and my target audience today. But by the time I get around to posting it, as per my content calendar, it may not be relevant. Have you got any thoughts or around that?
So I think there's a couple different types of content. So you've got your evergreen content, which is if you're talking about your service, if you're talking about customer stories, so the things I kind of mentioned are all, they're not going to change very much. Maybe you might change your values every couple of years. You might add another one in or swap something out because something's become more important in your business. But all of those things are going to be pretty consistent. And then if you're looking forward at the month and you know that there's a special day or something you want to celebrate coming up, just make sure that you've written the content and then scheduled it for that day. And then you don't have a chance of forgetting and then wasting content because it's been 3 days and you forgot to post it on the right day because something came up with one of your clients, whatever, life happens. If you can do it and actually sit there with the calendar and then post, like have it going out on those correct days, you should be fine. But your content pillars are very important. Make sure they're evergreen. So make sure it's stuff that you could talk about today, you could talk about tomorrow, you could talk about yesterday, you could talk about next month, next year. Make sure it's stuff that's still really important. The only one within there that is going to change a little bit is industry news. So I would maybe be a little bit careful about what I'm sharing. If it's something that's super in the moment and could change at any moment, just post it when you find out about it. You're the ones that are going to be sitting there also reading this news going, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. So if it's something like that, just post it in the moment. That's fine. But if it's something that's more of a general, broader update, that's something that's going to be happening over the next year or the next month, you can pop that into the calendar and make sure it goes out within the time frame that you're wanting it to, because the world shouldn't change too much with 30 days.
Except when you're in the NDIS space. It seems to change constantly in the NDIS space.
Yeah. Which
it seems to have quietened down now, but we've gone through 8 months of, or at least about 8 months of, where there was constantly something about the NDIS in the news, and that's what I was doing a lot of my my social media content on, was, hey, this article, and then giving my spin and my take on it.
Yeah, which is a really good way of doing content. But if it is something that is very in the moment, just do it. That's the one post I will say, yes, just sit there and do that as it comes in. But make sure you've got that base of content still scheduled. So when you do have a busy month or a busy week, it doesn't fall off and nothing's gone out for a few days, because the platform does like to see that you're consistent. So if it sees 2-3 posts going out a week, everything will work better. So you'll get more reach, more people will be looking at you, which is fantastic. That's the aim of the game, really.
Or if it's a quiet month, news wise within your industry.
Exactly.
You've then still got content to actually put out.
Yeah, and you're also telling you're telling the stories of the things that are users, not just to you. Obviously, the news is going to be like, yes, this is all the stuff that, like, for me, I have lots of marketing news websites that I sit there and I nerd out on, and I love it. Like, I have a really nice time on my way home, and I'm like, this is the best. And it is important for everyone within the industry or even our customers. However, it's probably not the most interesting thing for them. Whereas if I'm putting stuff about customer stories and wins and tips and tricks and maybe some kind of video that's kind of interesting and funny, I can hit all those other things. So I'm entertaining them. I'm giving them something valuable. I'm maybe helping invoke some kind of emotion. So you're hitting all those other points instead of just giving them knowledge.
I thought they were all sitting there nerding out on this podcast.
I hope they were. They should be.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Bonnie. This has been absolutely informative. I've actually even learned a few things, and I hope a lot of our listeners have got a lot of value out of this. If they want to find out more, or if they want to work with you, or they're struggling with their SEO or their social media, how can our listeners get in contact with you?
So I'll hand over my email to you and pop it in the show notes if that works. And then
That'd be
also
great.
pop in our website. And if anyone does have any little questions that pop up, more than happy to have people reach out to me.
Fantastic, Bonnie. It's been a pleasure, and as I said, very insightful and very informative, this chat. And for our listeners, next week we'll be looking more into video content and how to produce professional videos, and ways in which you can actually use professional video, what sort of equipment that you'll need, what sort of content to put on video, and things like that. And we'll explore those options in next week's episode. But for today, thanks for your time, Bonnie. And yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed chatting with you today.
Thanks. Right, I've stopped.